Welcome to InnerWaves podcast. Your body is keeping the score. The podcast where we explore the connection between high performance nervous system regulation and deeper patterns shaping our lives. Today's episode is titled Healing While Still Leading. So many leaders carry an invisible weight. They are the ones holding space for others, guiding communities, running businesses, supporting families. Yet behind the strength and responsibility, there's often a personal healing journey unfolding at the same time. What does it really look like to lead while you're still doing your own inner healing work? That is what we're going to explore today. Today, I'm joined by Tracy McFie, the founder and the leader of Sisterhood Rising and Wyld Tribe, communities dedicated to empowering women to step into their own truth, power, and authenticity for the past 30 years. In this conversation, we explore the reality of leadership, healing, and what it really takes to hold space for others while also honoring your own growth. Let's dive deep into this powerful conversation today, Tracy.
Oh, thank you, my love. Thank you for having me on InnerWaves to talk about what I really believe is a really, really in-depth, needed conversation.
Beautiful. So tell us a little about yourself, Tracy, and what you do.
Well, that's a huge question. What do I do? Look, for the past 50 years, I'm 52 this year, I have been on an exploratory journey of life, as have we all. And each part of my life, each decade, I guess you could say, as I look back, there's been so many different paths that I could have gone down, so many different sliding doors. And the last 30 years, particularly, after a huge shock in my life, everything changed. And I started to go, not just looking what was outside of me, but really starting to go and look within.
Absolutely. Would you be comfortable sharing about that stage which you just mentioned, which was really
Absolutely.
the game changer? Yep.
Look, the game changer, I was a solo mum for the majority of my marriage. My husband was FIFO, and look, one day it all just completely fell apart.
Right.
It was the most harrowing moment of my life. I loved my husband, and then one day he just stopped and he left, and he was gone for a good decade. And in that space, I tell you, my love, I was completely and utterly floored. I was devastated. I didn't see it coming. And I think that betrayal piece, when you go from being in a marriage to that betrayal of an affair and then gone,
Yes.
I was completely wiped out. I was completely wiped out. But I tell you this, I also understood that if I was feeling like that, there might be other women who were also feeling completely blindsided, alone, unseen, and unworthy, which is how I felt at the time. And so that's when I actually started running women's circles. And that was when Wyld Tribe was born. In some of the
That's
worst
beautiful.
possible moments of my life,
Right.
I created a community because I understood that healing is better when we do it together, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that sisterhood, oh my God, such a necessity.
Yes.
Yes, beautiful. Um, Share with us that part of your journey when you felt burnt out, holding
Mm,
yourself together, but still
yeah.
had to show up probably for your kids or for work
Yeah.
or the company that you were building. What was that
So,
stage and what was that part of your journey?
well, to be fair, it's well over a decade now. I created Wyld Tribe and then Sisterhood Rising. And I'm very proud to say that Sisterhood Rising is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year.
Yay!
And I know, right? And Wild Woman Weekend, its 21st anniversary. So
21st.
21 years. So we have well
Wow.
come of age. Yeah, we've come of age. But
And
in
these
that
are huge
process,
communities, Tracy. Like
these
you're
are huge.
huge. Yes. Like how many
Look,
women do you have like under the shed?
thousands.
Thousands. Wow.
Thousands. I couldn't actually tell after 21 years, I really couldn't tell you the number of women who have walked through come through the sisterhood circles, like yourself, come through a
Yes,
retreat called Reclamation, and
absolutely.
then the thousands of women that come through the festival. So I've had the humble, um, deep privilege to hold the
Yes,
space for thousands of women over the past, decade and beyond. But
absolutely.
going back to your question,
Yes.
when that all sort of came about for me at the ending of my marriage, I had two kids in high school. And so I was coming from a very, very dysregulated nervous system. And
Right.
I was really in the frequency of survival. And I built my company in that state of survival. I was in hustle culture. I was in that girl boss frame where you can have it all, you can do it all. And I was doing that. So I was looking after the house. I've got a property. So I'm chainsawing. And then the next minute
Yeah.
I'm running a women's circle, then I'm running kids to soccer. And there was so much going on in that time. And even moving out of that time, I still was operating out of a survival mode because I didn't know any other way to operate. And that became, I guess, my benchmark. That became my level of tolerance. That became the foundation for everything that I was doing. I was always hustling, moving. And for the most part, I loved it. For the most part, I'm quick natured. I move fast in the world. So for the most part, I was really happy operating like that until I wasn't.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I think my question would have come from, which I'm just going to ask is,
Mm.
so did you, out of that contentment, out of that, you said you enjoyed it, but you weren't
Yeah.
aware of the burnt out that was happening underlying.
Mm-mm.
Um, how did that really came to, what was the freeze point, or what was that burnout point where you really like, okay, there's something happening
Yeah.
which is not going the way it should be.
Yeah. I guess as Wyld Tribe got bigger, and bigger, and we became the biggest sort of women's movement here on the West Coast. What I started to see, the cracks probably started to appear in me about 2 years ago, where I started to get a little bit anxious about things. And anxiety is not a place that I really entertain, except when I was young, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
But I really started to become anxious. I started to feel overwhelmed. And at the end of last year, I was but a moment away from a full nervous breakdown. And what I observed in that time was that no one ever checks on the strong ones.
Mm,
And this is a real thing to have an awareness of in this type of spiritual culture, is that no one ever checks on the strong ones, because like me, we're high functioning, I'm very good at taking accountability for what I need, and this is how I walk my talk.
yeah.
But so no one would go, "Hey, baby, you're actually okay." That question was never asked because I was functioning so highly. But towards the end of last year, I was managing the festival on my own with a reduced team. Wild Woman Weekend was in our 20th anniversary, and I run that solo. I did have key people around me, but for the most part, it was a lot. It was a
Yes.
lot. And, my body started to become, it started with a whisper until it
Mhm.
then became a scream, and my body started to react. And I was sort of leaning into this before with you. The jaw. I
Mm.
got a lot of pain in my jaw. I would wake up and my hands were so sore. Obviously, while I was sleeping, I was I was gripping too
Yeah,
tightly.
yeah,
I started having bad headaches. There were so many ways my body started to say, Trace, you're not okay.
that's it. Yeah. Glad you picked up the signs with the wisdom that you have. Definitely, you
Mm,
know that waking up with tight jaws or a headache is not
mm.
just temporary. It's a lot. There's a root to it, and most
Yes.
of the people these days they are not aware of that. So I do know for a fact that um, many women and men have a Panadol either in their car or in their bag, which is just
Hmm.
as a go-to, solution, but
Mm.
not realizing that what is the deeper cause to that headache, or is this normal to just have, painkillers on a daily basis,
Mm.
just avoiding the root causes. And whether it's you are a CEO of, of a huge company, you're leading big projects, um, whether you are doing your business, whether you're running a community, or you're just a home mom or a
Yeah.
full-time homemaker. But definitely, these signs that your body is giving do need to
Mm.
come to surface, or do need to come into awareness, that there's something more required towards that. So what did
Look, I
you?
think that's
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I think that that's true. And this sense of dysregulation,
Mm,
we're only now just starting to talk about it. So most of the time people do, they reach for the Panadol because they don't know any other way. We've been taught, got a headache, have a Panadol. Is this hurt? Have a Panadol, have a pain relief, go to a doctor. And we're not actually looking at root cause. You're
yeah,
absolutely correct.
right.
But what I know for me, and even going back to when my marriage broke down, I really knew and understood that healing had to be, for someone like me, it had to be right down to its foundation.
Mm,
I had to uncover and unpack the identity pieces around that. I needed to take accountability of where, could I have grown? Where could I have done? And not from a space of shaming or blaming,
yep,
but from a space of empowered being. I mean, who would I be if I ran a women's empowerment movement, if I didn't do my own work, if I didn't do my own
absolutely.
check-in? I would be full of it. And I am certainly not known for that. I'm certainly known for walking my talk and taking that accountability.
Oh, you're certainly known for this queen energy that you hold. We all know about this. Oh my God, the ones who know you definitely know about it.
Yeah.
Tracy, tell me, what was the hardest identity that you had to let go of? We just
Oh,
mentioned that, so where do you think it was the hardest for you to let go?
yeah, that's a great question. I I suppose for me, I'm really committed to the evolution of my life. And I understand that reality is created through me. It's not happening to me. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world how we are.
Yep.
So I suppose the biggest identity shift for me really was really coming out of being full-time mum
Mm,
into that space of healing. I was happy being a wife. I was happy being a mum. There was a lot of challenge in that space, but the hardest identity shift was going from being someone's wife to being on my own. That was excruciating. And it
mm,
probably took a little longer than it needed to take, because I really wasn't willing at that point in my transition. I wasn't willing to let it go. I loved that part of my life. So that one, I mean, I've successfully transitioned through a few identities, and I'm doing so again right now. But that one was the most painful. I had less tools, I had less understanding. I didn't know about the nervous system at that point. I didn't
right.
understand about dysregulation. I didn't understand that, we need to take accountability. I didn't know those things yet. And what a blessing it is now. I mean, I was in my late 30s. What a blessing it is now. We have language.
Yes.
We didn't know about downloads or transmissions or even words like accountability. We
Yes.
weren't there yet. So what I love about being, in this space now, heading towards, in the late 2020s, is that we have far more capacity to have these type of very important conversations.
Yes, and that's the very reason why I have decided to just go out and speak, because I've had these conversations with my, the sisterhood circle, and
Yeah.
I really needed to find people with whom I could really open up and have these conversations with. But this all happened behind the doors.
Yeah.
It was never discussed openly, or so I just feel these conversations just need to be had in first, I mean, just on air, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people out there who are, um, finding these answers, and in these
Yeah.
conversations I feel they may get their answers. Yeah.
Look, and I think that there's a generational factor to them as well. So
Yeah.
if we think about, the millennials, which my kids are millennials, so they're born in 96 and 99. Those kids have grown up with my gen, the Gen Xers. raising them. So these kids have grown up with a whole much more emotional agility. They're talking about emotions. They're talking about these types of conversations. And there are people like myself and yourself who in our generations are leading the thought line. But there are so many women, and I see this in my community, there are so many women in their 40s, 50s and beyond who still really, really struggle with these types of conversations because there was no sense of normality about talking about one's feelings, particularly pertaining to menopause, to divorce, to the breakdown of relationships. And I feel that this type of podcast is important. There is lots of millennial type conversations and I love them. But I feel that it is also equally important new to this because we were raised in don't air your dirty laundry in public. And we were raised in all those kinds of catchphrases, which can be really challenging to overcome, and create that and cultivate that sense of safety to talk about body dysregulation, to talk about nervous system dysregulation outside of the context of going to see a GP.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. And the rituals and the remedies and the natural therapies, this needs to be spoken so loud because there's that whole box thinking where it just happens this way, and that's all what we know about. I think we are in the age of an AI now, and humans are nearly forgetting to question themselves that really do I think this is right, which is being sold to me on the news or, whatever system programming that we have been brought up with. Are they the truth? I mean, I think humans have just stopped questioning. We have stopped questioning ourselves, and it's important to just bring the light towards just thinking out of the box a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a sense of cognitive dissonance, and I believe that the COVID era really shine a massive spotlight on that. And what I mean by cognitive dissonance, it means that people often struggle with what might be actually happening. So it's easier to lean into a common narrative, which is being upheld by news broadcasters and the like. It's easier to think like that. I challenge the ease of it in that that's a slippery slope to go down, but also I would humbly offer that the more we know, I feel like there's almost like a sense of we need to take that to the next level. The more we know, well, isn't it our responsibility to begin awkward conversations?
Yes.
To talk about things in a way where it's non argumentative, but rather, hey, have you considered?
Yes.
Like you were just sharing, with nervous system dysregulation, particularly women in menopause, women are predominantly pushed into taking some sort of magic pill and potion from, the medical conglomerates rather than go, hey, let's look at other ways that we can do this,
Absolutely.
And that's that piece which is also connected to shame.
There's
something wrong with me. I need to take a magic potion. How about we just sit in a women's circle and discuss? Because I can guarantee you, sisters, you are not alone.
Yes, that's so deep, and that's really reaching. Tracy, I was just going through an article the other day, and it said up there that it was from a doctor. He said, a conscious doctor, if I would like to put it in that way. He did mention that because you were talking about menopause, some years back, it was said that the menopause age was around, from 50 to 60 or 65. It was later on in the age. Then it came up starting at 45 to 55. And now it is literally, there are articles being out there saying 30s, like late 30s to 50s. And we're like, okay. So this whole...
I have a big opinion here.
I would love to bring that out, just bring that out. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's the medicalization of the human condition, which
mm,
makes you what? A really, really, really great consumer. I
mm.
didn't know anything about perimenopause, did you?
No, I'm
And I'm
studying
not,
about it now, but I
I'm
haven't
not
known.
saying it doesn't exist. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't
Mm,
exist. What
mm.
I am saying is that there's this consumer culture where as if they can medicalize it, then they can give you a potion, a pill. Then you're in the system, babe.
Yeah.
You're in the system. You're a fantastic customer to, the medicalization of women's menstrual cycles,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I have a very big, maybe unpopular to your listeners, and that's okay. I don't need to be agreed with. I always say, don't trust a word I say, but trust the feeling and vibration it creates
Yes.
in your
Yeah.
body. You know a truth intrinsically, you do.
Yes. Yes. And it's just about bringing these conversations out there, just giving them a
Mm,
direction that could this be the truth? Or are
yeah.
we just not ready to question it? So,
Mm.
getting back to the questions, what did success cost you that nobody saw? Like, you're a super successful woman today. We all know
Thank
about the
you.
queen that you are, all that you've built, your empire. Um, but what did it cost you that nobody saw?
That's Look, success can be very isolating.
Mm,
I guess what it has cost me, and I don't see this as a negative in any way, but success can be really isolating, particularly in the women's world. The witch wound is still something that women are trying to overcome. And that idea, particularly in Australia, of the tall poppy. My relatability has always been, and my integrity has always been something that I've prided myself on. I'm no different to any other woman. I've just got the tenacity and the audacity to go out into the world and make a change, but it has cost me close interpersonal relationships because that idea of the witch wound, the tall puppy, everyone wants to cheer you on until such time as they feel, in my situation, that I haven't been supportive or I haven't done something that they've needed me to do. And unfortunately, I have had lots of experiences of, just really poor behavior. And
mm,
I've been called out, trodden on, backstabbed, the whole thing. But I would offer this. I just send those types of women even more love than I ever did before, because people can only operate where they're coming from. So that is honestly, my love, that has brought me so much pain. And last year, when I was at that edge of a full breakdown, I jumped on a plane and I went to Peru, and I was talking to the shaman, and it was like, right, that's it. Wyld Tribe's over. I don't want to do anything anymore. I'm sick of being hurt. And he said to me, he said, you are like Condor. This is ugly cry. Everything's happening here. He goes, Tracy, you are like Condor. You can see the bigger perspective, and
yep.
not everybody can see that bigger perspective. And he said, he's sort of touching my chest again, crying. He said, like, your heart is so big, and most people can't see that. They,
Mm,
when you challenge them, it becomes difficult. And that gave me that new, invigorated, okay, righto, I am on, because I do feel like I'm on my path and on my purpose through. I
yes.
really feel that for myself.
Yeah.
So I just needed someone who doesn't know me,
Mm.
who could see me in my messy and say, "Hey, you're on purpose." But that really has cost me some friendships over the years that have gutted me deeply.
Sorry to hear that, but yes,
Mm,
I feel the more we step up, or there's a shedding that happens.
yeah.
Through my own journey as well, I've seen that relationships and friends and
Mm,
jobs and businesses that you there's a shedding that happens on every layer, and then once you are out of
mm,
that, you will realize that yes, um, it happened for a reason, and that's the
yeah.
reason why we are here talking about this.
Yeah. And
Um,
there's also a sense of confirmation bias, like I spoke earlier about the transitions of Tracy McFie. You asked me about which identity was the hardest to shed. And, I also know within the context of what's it cost me, those friendships that I cherished and loved so deeply that have transitioned and changed, I can also see why that needed to happen within the
yes,
next evolution of who I am. I think that
yes,
the biggest thing that women particularly do need to learn is just to have some grace around
yes,
that,
yes.
just to hold some grace around honoring the friendships that were, rather than going straight to the witch wound and going into that gossip cycle of she did this to me and she's the
Yeah.
villain, which is something I advocate very strongly for.
Beautiful.
Mm.
How did you continue to lead, serve, and show up for others while navigating
Mm.
your own healing journey? Did you take a pause? Do you usually do that? Like, do you withdraw yourself from the entire work that you're doing, or but there are some chores like taking care of kids, being there for the family, and there are things
Yeah.
which you really can't withdraw from as a mother or as a woman. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like even as a CEO, the,
Mm.
there would be some times where you cannot always withdraw yourself, say for 6 months, and go away and leave the work to
No.
itself. That's not possible.
No.
Like, I've been there and I've felt the burnt
Mm.
there. So, how did you continue to lead and serve in those times where you really, were
Yeah.
navigating your own healing journey?
Well, when the biggest part of that journey happened, when my husband walked out, I just pushed through because I had kids in school, braces, my kids were in private school, school fees, I had a mortgage. So I just really just hustled, to be
Yeah.
fair. I just had to, and I was committed to healing as I went, which I did successfully. My ex-husband and I have a fantastic relationship now, but because I
That's
made
good.
him be my friend again. Um, but I just had to push through this last bout, this nervous breakdown that I'm speaking into. I just had to withdraw. I have my CEO role. Sisterhood Rising still needs to happen. There are things in the background that I have to do, but I have really withdrawn myself from the public eye for the last 3 months. I've only just come back into doing the daily spell, and I spent a lot of time. I live on 17 acres. I spent a lot of time just outside, going to the beach, sitting with the trees, playing with my grandchildren, just so that I could come back into me. And I'm not quite there yet. I'm still navigating those final years, months and weeks of the snake. I'm
Right.
still,
Yes.
shaking off those last little bits of the snake skin. And, we know that the astrological support system is also sort of edging us forward as well. And I'm still navigating, and I still feel a bit bruised and battered. But I have better tools I've been studying, and I'm going into my master's for NLP, which
Beautiful.
is neuro linguistic programming.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm collecting, I suppose, and studying new formats. My background's in social work, sociology, psychology, human behavior. And so I'm adding to some of the skill sets that I already have, human design, and so I've withdrawn myself to propel
Mm.
myself forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a lot, and that's important. That is
Yep.
important um, to be put out there as well. That some of the most successful leaders, and how do they
Mm.
really maintain um, their business, their showing up versus the pulling back as well, the balance of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is so
It's a
important
very
because
it's a very fine line,
yes,
because like you said, especially in my capacity as a CEO, if there's certain things don't happen,
mm,
like particularly with running a festival, 10 years in, there are certain markers that I have to reach so that it actually happens in November.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
collapsing into a puddle on the floor, also while being condor,
Oh
I'm
yes.
looking at the bigger perspective.
Right. All right.
Mm.
What misconceptions do people have about leaders, healers, or the high achieving men or women when it comes to healing? What do you think? is one thing.
I think that we are still clinging on to an old framework. Particularly, I can only speak about Australia because that's what I
Yep.
know. But
Yeah.
I have observed that still unwrapping the stickiness around the guru leader, the leader that has all the
Mm,
answers, and the cult-based, dare I say,
yep.
form and style of leadership. We are still unpacking that. And I think that that's sometimes where the disappointment piece can come in. I think
Mm,
that, we often don't see the leaders as human. We dehumanize them. We
mm,
forget that they also have a bad day, that they
mm,
also have wounds in the heart. We forget that those same people that we aspire to be like and look up to also have the day to day put the washing on and vacuum the floor. So I feel that, we are still unwrapping those sorts of things. And particularly in the women's workspace and in the spiritual workspace, there's this idea of, well, it's unsisterly to charge for a women's circle. And I'm like, well, mate, we live in a patriarchal society. Back in the days where we're in a matriarchy, the woman would
yep.
have been fed and cared for and looked after, but our currency is still money. And
Mm,
it's something that's so, prevalent.
mm,
That's not fair. There's that seemingly that's not fair piece that can be, projected onto leaders that they shouldn't receive an income for their service.
yes.
Um, it's changing, but it's still some of those things are still sitting in there. But like I said, the guru
Good.
status, the leader's got all the answers, and we forget that still human, still growing, still
Yeah.
changing, still evolving,
Yes.
still here.
I completely agree on that because I personally have been through situations like, okay, you know this, you do this. How about you still have this issue in your own body? But
Mm.
yes, yes, I do. Yes, I'm healing. Yes, I'm on my journey. And that concept of, you know, getting it out there that no matter what leader or which level you are at, um, and that does not only restrain us to our own field that we are talking about the spirituality or physical natural healing system or therapies. It's more of
Mhm.
anything. Like
Yeah.
when I remember when I became a mother, I was 19, and
Mhm.
the last month when the doctor said the baby is almost ready, do not wait if you really feel any sort of pain. And I go home and I look at my tummy of 9 months and I'm like, Mom, I'm talking to my mom and I'm telling her that I am not changing diapers. I said this. I said this. I guess
Uh,
I wasn't, I was 19. I
yeah.
learned to be the mother along the way.
Hmm.
And I wasn't a prepared mother because it was an early age and stuff, but I learned being a mother along the way,
Yeah.
and that is okay. Who knows how to do it all at day one? Even me
Well,
today. Yeah.
and even in the context we're talking about leadership, I look up to women who are healing as they go. For me, it's more authentic. I look up to women who are taking accountability. Oh, I used to think like this. I've learnt this other thing. Now I think like this. I find that refreshing. I
Yes.
find active leadership far more refreshing than the leadership style of I know everything, do as I say. That's I just call bullshit on that.
Yeah.
I am far more inspired by the woman who is learning as she goes and choosing to shed those different identities, to
Yeah.
move through those different identities, to move through those different ways of being. I very much aspire to be
Powerful.
that type of leader.
Yep. And that's powerful because again, coming back to our own examples, I have built businesses, I've burnt businesses,
Mhm.
I've made choices just for myself. I've had relationships, I've had divorce, I've led my life on my own as a single mother, chose to manifest a
Yep.
man in my life and living with him right now. But all of that has been a personal choice and I
Mm.
love the new identities that I've put myself into. I've learned through
Yes.
all of them, and I'm very different, and um, and I love the woman that I am today, and it's all because of all those choices. So
Hmm.
So I think that is powerful, that we grow along the way, and it's okay to shift our own perception towards the same topic. Probably before my divorce, I may not be okay with anyone divorcing, but
Mm,
what life took me through and where I am today, I do understand the consequences of life, and I'm okay with those situations now. There's nothing
absolutely.
wrong. Yeah, there's nothing wrong in accepting or the change
Mm,
that we are going through, and that's how we grow.
mm,
Yeah.
yep.
Um, let's move on to the next topic. Okay. What practices and rituals helped you to stay grounded while holding space for others? So, anything in particular that you really think is powerful on a daily basis?
Daily
Daily
practice.
basis.
I have been doing a daily practice since my 20s. It is something that
Whoa.
came to me. Yeah, look, I guess it regulates me even when I don't know, particularly in my 20s and 30s, I didn't know about dysregulation, but my daily practices brought me to the now. And now that I'm a bit older, I understand that the now state is where it's at, sister.
Oh,
When you're in the now, depression from lamenting over the past doesn't exist.
yes.
When you're in the now, anxiety over what's happening next
Yeah.
doesn't exist because you're so present. So my daily practices look like taking a breath. They look like doing my little rituals that I do in my shower. I sing all my little ditties. I share a daily spell, and I have done for the past few years on the Wyld
Yes.
Tribe Facebook
I've been
page.
following
I
that.
get Yeah, I get bare feet on the ground. When I was younger, I used to light a candle every day, and then life got too busy for, oh my God, did I blow out the candle? So I stopped
Mhm.
doing that. And I would start to virtually light my candle. And one of my best practices that I would give to your listeners is the one in the shower.
Mm.
So just every time you have a shower, and this is so automatic for me now, every time you have a shower, just imagine that that water is quite literally cleansing your field.
Yeah.
When you start to do that, here's what happens. You disentangle yourself from any other energetics from outside of your own field. When we know that our life is, so the heart isn't just a pump in the body, it
Mm.
emits a frequency. And so when we do this shower practice, it's just cleansing your auric field so that the frequency that you are emitting stays clean of any other attachments, thoughts, arguments. When you walk into the room and someone's had a really big argument, you can feel it, can't you?
Yep. Yep.
The
And
shower practice helps to wash away any residual energy from outside of you. So I would offer that to your listeners. And it's just so simple. Just say the water is cleansing and clearing me. And then watch it go down the plug hole.
that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Tracy, looking back, how has healing while leading shaped the leader and the woman you are today?
I think that the healing while leading, I'm more vocal about talking about it now, because I think that offers the women, because I predominantly work with women, it offers the women a deeper sense of integrity. I'm not perfect. I'm actually far from perfect. And to be fair, I don't even strive for perfection. What I strive for is soul growth. So I speak about it now. And I used to be very ashamed, if I can be really vulnerable. In my early 20s, I was an intravenous drug user. I was very ashamed of that for a very, very long time. And I now speak about it really openly because I feel like that it gives a bigger sense of relatability. I take accountability. I remove the shame piece. And if I can model that to other women, then I can tell you that you can do that too.
Yes.
There are so
Yeah.
many, there's so much shame around certain aspects of our lives, which are really societal. So when we share, as a leader whilst healing, if I'm sharing these stories, and some people know that my eldest son passed away, I have big components that I very openly now share, which just illustrates that while you're healing, you can still create exceptional things in the world. Don't wait to be healed. Don't wait for it to be ready. Don't wait for it to be the perfect time. Because, honey, sister, you will be waiting and waiting, and all of a sudden you'll close your eyes and go to the next life going, what was I waiting for?
Absolutely. Today, for me, this is powerful as well because it's my
Yes.
first podcast. It's the first time I'm ready to really openly speak about whatever I
Mm.
speak behind the doors. And this is
Yep.
me. This is the real parole. This is the real conversations I live by. So
Yep.
it's been 10 years since I've been sitting on this and keeping it all to myself. So really, this is powerful. I'm way beyond perfect right now. Like, I'm just not, I don't buy that word at all. But
Yep.
whatever I am, I'm just out there now.
I
Whether it's
love that.
perfect.
Let us hear your voice, sister. This is what we need, open, candid conversations.
That's it.
It's
That's
it's
it.
it's the way to go.
Definitely. And way more is coming up in the community now through
Yes.
through us, through many of us, and in many
Yeah.
forms, isn't it? Um,
Yeah.
all righty. We're just heading to probably the last few topics of the podcast. If the body is truly keeping the score, which is the title of this podcast, what message do you think people need to hear right now regarding the
That's
score of their body?
that's something that's very important to me right now. So I think that a lot of people now are learning about fascia.
Oh,
Now, what
yes.
the fascia is, it is the spider webby sort of mycelium type network that lives between the muscle and the skin layers. And then this fascia is what I understand holds emotion. So you might have had an argument with someone, let's say your mum when you were a teenager, and it got really heated and there was lots of unpacking in there. The body keeps the score by holding the energetic of that confrontation. And what I know and understand about the mind is that the mind doesn't understand time as in a linear construct.
Yes.
So when you hold the emotion in the fascia and you begin to unpack that story once more, the body doesn't understand that that happened 20 years ago. So we are
Mm.
constantly re-traumatizing ourselves. What we can do and what is important in terms of the body keeps the score, we need to start to lean into practices like fascia release,
Mm-hmm.
somatic release methods, scar tissue release methods to help us release that condensed energy that's sitting in the body.
Mm.
And the talk therapies, of which I've been trained in many years ago, the CBT, all of those sort of circular questioning things. And just again might be unpopular, but what I have discovered is that they tend to constantly re-traumatize people. The talk
Yes.
therapy is asking you to talk constantly about your trauma, is actually trying to numb the thought around the
Yeah.
trauma. It's not getting active on how the body holds and stores.
Yes.
So when we can look at practices to help us release the energetics in the body, to up level our level of tolerance, to
Mm.
create and cultivate a level of safety in the body, that's where the future of human evolution really lies. Because then when we do the healing, what happens? It goes down the lines to our
That's
kids,
it.
it goes back along the lines, because of course, time is all stacked upon each other. It's not linear. That is my way, and in my humble opinion, that is my way of really working with deep healing. That is my legacy work, and it is intergenerational.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's powerful when we heal as mothers, fathers, our
Yes.
kids. Our kids are the next
Mhm.
generation who take charge of this. Um,
Yes.
regarding um, regarding the old therapies that you just mentioned, that they
Mm.
actually re-traumatize the person talking about it again
Mm.
and again. That's something that in my own practice I used to do 5 years back, and now I'm only using breath work. I'm only
Mm.
using breath work, or probably on a higher level some energy work to bring
Yes.
any change further. But yes, what you spoke are the next top therapies that we can step into.
Well, Parula, it works, doesn't it? Because what the breath work does, breath work takes you to a state of release where the story, to be really honest, and this might be unpopular as well, the story itself's not relevant. It's the story that has become an energetic that is stored in the body. And that is why people are having such magnificent results with breath work, is that the breath work is allowing the condensed energy to exit the system without constantly going into the loop of the narrative.
Absolutely. Tracy, thank you so much. Thank you tons. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your journey, and the work you're doing through Sisterhood Rising and Wyld Tribe. I'm looking forward to joining you by the end of the year in these two beautiful events that take place. We will link down all the necessary websites, links where we can find or book up for your the festivals. It's been such a powerful conversation today. Thank you so much.
It was my absolute great pleasure. And thank you for having me as your very first guest. I cannot wait to see where you take this podcast, and maybe we can have a chat a little ways down the road and see how your voice continues to reverberate through the ether.
Yes. These are the first steps that I'm taking, my little baby steps, and looking forward to the big energy that I'm planning to put out there through all you powerful ladies, men, and women that I've chosen to, invite here to talk with.
Yes.
Yeah. And to everyone listening, if today's episode resonated with you, remember that leadership doesn't mean you have to be fully healed or have everything figured out. Sometimes the powerful leadership happens when we are brave enough to heal while we continue to lead. Until next time, breathe slow and listen to your inner waves. Thank you.